This is the Resilient Advisor Show with Jay Coulter.
Recently, I went on a vacation. Normally, when I go on vacation, I make sure to bring my laptop, my phone. I'm checking in on social media accounts, emails, checking in on Slack, my clients, the whole time that I'm away. But this fall, I decided to do something different, and I wanted to share with my audience what I experienced. I made the decision to try to go through what they call a digital detox. And basically, what that entailed was staying off of social media, not spending much time on email. I only checked it once a day and only posted on social media once. And also staying away from financial blogs and things that were related to the industry and letting my mind declutter from a lot of the noise that was in there. You see, I run a media company. We have the consulting business, the RIA, and I found myself just overwhelmed by all the technology and tools and noise that was coming at me through these different platforms. So I thought I would try this popular thing right now, which is doing a digital detox. And here's what I learned. All right, number one, the first day was very difficult. I found myself reaching for my phone on a regular basis so frequently that it alarmed me. If I was in an elevator, in the car, at the grocery store, if there was a pause in a conversation, I found myself reaching for my phone. Once I got it, I knew there was really nothing I could open on the phone, and it just served as a little bit of a flag of, hey, Jay, you're doing this a little bit too much. That for me was the most alarming thing. But by the second day, that started to calm down some, but I realized that I was thinking in terms of social media posts. I was looking at pictures that I was taking with my family and friends in terms of how a particular image would look on social media. And that got me to thinking that there's probably a lot of sloppy thinking that goes on if you spend too much time posting on any of these social platforms, because either you have a character count, or you're worried what somebody is thinking or what they're going to say or what type of backlash you might have. And taking that time away from those platforms really helped clean up some of that clearly sloppy thinking that I was having. I did find that I really, really missed all of the sports profiles that I followed. See, I'm recording this in September of 2022, and my Atlanta Braves are on a great tear. The Tennessee Volunteers are undefeated. And man, I really do enjoy following those social media platforms for sports franchises. I also found time to read a book. Imagine that. I used to pride myself on reading a book a month. And then once we started the media company years ago, that just went out the window. I claimed that I never had time. But boy, you sure do have a lot of time when you manage the amount of time you're spending on these social media platforms. And I forgot how much I really, truly enjoyed reading books. So if you find yourself in a place where you're not reading like you used to, try to determine if somehow it's tied back to social media. Another thing that I forced myself to do during this digital detox was stay off of an industry blog called Hedge. Now, I know a lot of my listeners are be familiar with the platform. If you are not, it's essentially the gossip platform for investment managers and traders. And they write some really interesting research. You got to stay out of the comment section, but they can really take you down the rabbit hole in a lot of different areas of our industry. It's almost addictive. I would say I possibly was addicted to it, checking it multiple times a day. I stayed off of it for a whole week, and you know what? It turns out I didn't miss a darn thing, even with the markets collapsing while I was on vacation. Something else that occurred to me is that while I enjoyed the sports handles that I follow, and I deliberately do not follow anything political or people who are political on any of these platforms, boy, politics sure is poison on these platforms. And they deliberately try to put it in front of you. So, I've always told my clients to stay away from politics, don't post about it, don't follow folks. But man, they are really actively, especially as we're heading into an election season, trying to get you engaged on the platform so that they get more minutes on the platform, eyeballs on the platform, And you really, if you pay attention to it, you'll see that they're manipulating you into doing that. So be careful when it comes to politics. Something else that really stood out to me as I thought about a lot of my experiences on social media and then subsequent experience with people that I met on social media in real life. There's a saying down in Texas that some folks are just all hat and no cattle. And I have found that some of the noisiest people on social media, they actually have no idea what they're talking about. And they're just really good at creating noise and building an audience on social media. And it's really important to either know who they are or stay away from them if you're consuming the platform. Something else I did that was fantastic is because I could not get on social media and I had a lot of downtime because we were on vacation, I listened to a lot of other industry podcasts. And as somebody who produces a lot of podcasts for myself and my clients, I usually don't consume a lot of them. But man, there are some really, really good ones out there. There's also some pretty poor ones as well. And my big takeaway from that is, if you find the podcasts that speak to you and listen to them on a regular basis, they can really help you and be impactful. If you produce podcasts, make sure they're really, really high quality, because you can't take your audience for granted, and creating content in volume is not as good as creating quality content that your listeners will actually appreciate. A couple other things I realized while I was away, we were with some family and some friends, that I really don't like working from home. I like being around people. And that's probably going to lead to some changes in my work environment, for the simple fact that as a good friend of mine once said, you can be on Zoom all day and feel like you've been around people, but in reality, you really have not been around anybody. And lastly, from a marketing perspective, it became really clear, and I've got to give the folks at Snappy Kraken credit for this. Email and text are the most effective ways to communicate with people. After being away from social media, realizing you really didn't miss anything, I did go back and check all of my emails. I went back and checked all of my texts. Well, in fact, in reality, I checked my text in real time while I was going through that detox. And so there's something there for genuine marketers. Email and text are important. Don't neglect them. So to kind of wrap this all up, if you are in the business of marketing your practice, you do still need to be on social media. In fact, be on the lookout for a new course, Social Media 101 from Morningstar, that I produced with my friend Katie Braden. That should be coming out later this fall. It walks you through the basics of how to use social media the right way. And when you're on there, speaking of the right way, make sure you're not being manipulated by the platforms. Make sure your emotions are not being controlled by others, and connect with your right fit niche in your small tribe. And then lastly, and I got this advice from a good 25-year friend of mine. He said, Jay, sometimes I realize I just don't talk to people anymore on the phone. So when I think of them, I just pick up the phone and call them. And it occurred to me that if you just pick up the phone and call some of these, quote, relationships that you have on social media, if you like them there's a really good chance you're going to like them in real life, as a lot of us have found as the lockdowns have wound down and we're getting out to conferences and seeing each other. I'm Jay Coulter. Thank you for listening.